It's time for a commitment to equity and inclusion because 241 years ago, our country was founded on that concept. The words were different then. Back then, men literally meant property-owning men. But over the last 241 years, this country has evolved, changed, moved in the right direction. And whether that concept is personal, individual, or community, it's a concept that is important to the future of our being in this world. In my particular case, personal, I have relatives who are homosexuals. I have family members who don't exactly get along with the rest of the family, which I find problematic. And so I think that when it hits home and you get into a position of influence, you have a responsibility to say that it's time. That time for a commitment to equity and inclusion touches numerous parts of every one of our communities, whether it's housing or transportation or education. There is a role to play that comes from the top in terms of government, that comes from cities, that comes from school districts, that comes from housing authorities. If those entities don't have a clear view of what it is they're trying to protect, what it is they're trying to create, and what it is they're trying to move forward on in order to make the community a better place to live, then they're not doing their jobs. In my particular case, I have an opportunity in Aurora to name the members of the Aurora Housing Authority. What I try to do in that case is make sure that the people that I've named to those terms on the Housing Authority are as committed as I am to making sure that housing is open to everyone in Aurora. We also then have relationships with our educational entities, whether it's the University of Colorado, Aurora Community College, Cherry Creek Schools, Aurora Public Schools. We want to know that those who are in a position of authority in each of those entities are doing what they can do to help educate our children and those seeking additional education in the best way possible. They're open, they're encouraging of getting as many different people into their institutions as they can, that they're taking care of those that are there, that they're avoiding as much as possible those incidences of bullying or calling someone out because they happen to be dressed differently or they happen to look differently, or maybe they just don't speak English because they just got here last week from another country. Those kinds of commitments are important to all of us, and carrying through on the responsibility that is related to those commitments is how government helps us move forward. It's time for a commitment to equity and inclusion, and local government plays a huge role in making that happen. All of us who are involved here in Colorado must understand history and have an appreciation of history in order to make sure as we move ahead that we are not repeating ourselves. Abraham Lincoln gave a speech in 1863 that said, our forefathers set forth a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. With the exception of the capital M, which incidentally is there, all you have to do is change it to all people. That's the commitment That's what we have to do, whether we are dealing with employment, whether we're dealing with education, whether we're dealing with housing, whether we're dealing with an interaction between a police officer and someone who may or may not have committed a crime. Those things have to remain important to us, because if they don't, we are failing that charge. We are failing the meaning of that history. And if we don't, then, in my opinion at least, local government isn't doing its job.